you know what? I'll just say this. The grocery store gonna get mad at me if I complain about the carts not being returned.
Wait, what?
Like if I come on the podcast and complain about something or talk about something,
Yeah.
am I supposed to talk about no people, places, or things while I'm here?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I come to you from Baltimore City, Maryland, and here on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In today's episode of what I refer to as the Thread to Mend podcast, where I sit down, I share with you the things that I'm currently working on, I have a lot of different little things to talk about. We're not going to go deep into any one subject here. We got fiber prep, spinning, knitting, Ravelry favorites. We're going to dive into some new patterns that I've found on Ravelry, some of which I've added to my queue, some of which I've picked out yarn for already, and I will show that to you. But I have just discovered a new designer to me since last week's video, which I learned about in the live chat of the Sunday premiere. If you are here in the Sunday premiere, hello, let us all know in the live chat where you're watching from. I would love to know what you're knitting right now. If you have picked up any new fiber or yarn, let's chat about that in the live chat because I love to know what you're all up to. That is really where this monologue becomes more of a dialogue, and that is what really brings me joy each week. So let us know where you're watching if you're there. And oh, I do have a corrections corner, very important. In last week's video, towards the end, so a lot of you hadn't even seen it, which is good because it was factually incorrect. I did a little editing comment on the Taylor Swift Maddie Healy romance. And I was under the impression, based on an interview that was published in October of 2022, that Maddie had found sobriety, or at least found recovery from hard drugs. I think he drinks. I don't know anything about him, truly. But I was under the impression that it was recently that he became sober from heroin and benzodiazepines and whatnot. That was not correct. I confused these two albums that came out at different times, and it was during the recording of one of the two that this happened, and it was years ago. So as far as we know, he has been clean from drugs much longer than I understood a week ago, and I wanted to make that correction because I don't want to talk about people's private lives and be like so far off base that it's offensive. Anyway, this is not a Taylor Swift podcast. This is a knitting podcast. And I will tell you, I have made some progress on the conceptualization of my Eras Tour poster tank, is maybe what I will refer to it as. It's the Chevron open back tank top I intend to recreate. I swatched briefly on number 2 metal knitting needles, and what I learned in that process is I don't like working on metal knitting needles. I'm actually a very bad knitter on metal needles because I always work with wooden unless it's small circumference knitting in the round with my Chiagu 9-inch circulars, which is what I prefer for things like socks or sleeves. On the Chiagu like regular circulars, I have a lot of rowing out, and you can't see it from here, and you might not know what I mean by that, but rowing out is when you knit at one gauge, and then when you turn and you purl to work stockinette flat, the gauge is suddenly very different, and it's not always consistently different, so going to a different needle size for just when I purl is not going to work for me. It's the fact that my yarn is not gripping to my needles the way I'm used to. I'm not going to order size 2 wooden needles. I don't even know if they exist, to be honest. I feel like maybe they don't somehow. I'm not sure. They must. They have to. I'm resisting the urge right now to just buy everything I need the moment I think I need it because I'm budgeting. It is new to me. I'm on a budget. I'm trying to just be diligent with my spending, and Anyway, all of that to say, I think I'm just gonna knit it on the size 3s. I think I'd rather just knit it on size 3. And I knew even still that on a size 2, the whole 13 stitches between increases and decreases is not quite gonna work out to the gauge I want. I want to have the exact same number of peaks and valleys in my execution of the tank top than the original, and if I were to do that, it would be far too wide. And so if I'm going to go up a needle size for sake of ease, I guess literal ease and like the ease of working the pattern, I'm going to have to switch it up to about 10 stitches between the increases and decreases. And I just sort of kind of made that decision, and what I'm going to do next is finally, I've been putting it off for so long, is cake up the lace weight yarn I have set aside for this project that was pulled from my stash. I'm going to cake it up into 2 cakes, hold it double, and I'm going to work the bottom band today. I'm doing it today. I'm telling myself today because if I don't start this, I'll never finish it. And my hope is that I can sit down and focus intensely on this project and get about half of it done in a day. That's my goal. That's how I think I'm going to get through the process of starting and then working the side body shaping, which there is in addition to the pattern of fabric. So I want to work that out, and I want to get the groove of the stripes in place all in one go, like one intense knitting session. I feel like I need to do that with intense focus. That's that. I have also set aside a ton of yarn, not a ton, for a new project that I conceptualized weeks ago, but I finally have pinpointed the stitch pattern that I have pulled from Barbara Walker's Treasury of Knitting, and I actually pulled from my shelf another Barbara Walker book, which is a total treasure of knowledge. It's Knitting from the Top Down. I picked this up years ago, I think, from the recommendation of Andrea Mowry in one of her podcast videos. And if you're not aware already of Barbara Walker, she is a knitting wizard of sorts. She is a treasure to the world, or was, I don't even know. But she has published many books, some of which are on the subject of knitting, a lot of them actually. And what this book does is it goes into detail in paragraph form exactly how you would execute any top-down shoulder shaping or even pants shaping. There's a chapter in here about knitting pants from the top down, which is very intriguing. And she has a couple chapters that interest me. I did, of course, reference this when I started knitting my first raglan pattern. And today I was referencing the knitting from the top down drop sleeve, which I was pretty much the same as I think I rambled on about last week or the week before when I talked about the recreation of the Anti-Hero music video t-shirt. But I stumbled across this chapter here, and she refers to it as the kimono sleeve. I think we all now know that's a little bit outdated, an appropriation of a term that's like not even accurate. So she also has a reference to the batwing sleeves, and I think there might even be something on dolman sleeves specifically. I'm not sure. No, she just says batwing and kimono, but essentially a dolman is somewhere in between the two. So here's the batwing image. You can see it's very dramatic. Lots of extra fabric under the underarm. And then this is what she refers to as the kimono sleeve. And my impression is that a dolman sleeve is kind of in between the two. It's a little bit wide of a upper arm, but also some shaping, like a little less fabric here. Anyway, my hope is to knit my own self-designed, just not even, I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to write the pattern out. I just really, really want my hand spun yarn knit into a dolman sleeve sweater. I'm looking for the remaining sweater quantity of this, but it's not within reach. I have 470 grams of this hand spun Corriedale. It's a natural gray color, and I still have a lot more of this fleece to spin. Although this is 470 grams, it is very densely spun. So I'm probably getting a lot less yardage than a commercially spun yarn of the same weight. So I'm excited to knit a sweater from this, working from the top down, because number one, I can try it on as much as I want to make sure I get the right amount of ease under the arm. I hate when sweaters fit too close to the underarm. I've said that a ton of times here on my channel, so much that I'm like literally made fun of for it in the comments, so I will leave it at that. But I would love a dolman style sleeve from this particular sweater quantity. I do want to cast on and start knitting a mindless knit because number one, I'm working on 2 projects. Stephen West bubble cardigan, very loud, very colorful, not all that inspiring right now. I don't know why I'm not attached to the color story of it all any longer. Like, it's something I've just kind of like moved past, and that's such a bummer, isn't it? When you like start a project with certain colors and you love them then, but then by the time you finish it, you've like already kind of grown out of the idea. I hope that changes by the time I have it finished. I hope I'm excited to wear it. I think I will be. But of course, I love my muted neutral shades, and so I'm excited to have this in my wardrobe. I'm trying to focus on what I want to wear more than what I want to make. And I think when I cast on the bubble cardigan, I really wanted to make it more than I think I knew I wanted to wear it. I know I've talked about a lot of different projects I have planned. I'm looking over at my basket of yarn, and there's so much of it and so much not yet cast on. I think I need to do a cast on party this weekend, because the one new project I did cast on, the Celeste tee, is so complicated and it takes so long to get through all of the bobbles in a row that it's really difficult to work on. I don't always have the capacity at the end of the day to work lace knitting, and so it's kind of a Sunday project where I've kind of decompressed enough that I can sit down and knit lace with bobbles. So I either need to hunker down and move past that hesitation, which I think I'm capable of, or I need to cast on more new things so that I can keep knitting a lot. Because right now, as it is, there's not one project on my needles I feel that I want to fervently knit on, if that's a word. So this I hope would be one, because the fact that it's sort of self-designed and I'm not going to put any effort into writing it down, I'm just going to do it and love it and wear it forever. I think that that would be a nice, at the end of the day, project to knit on, and that is my goal. Now, I also pulled out this book because I had a project brewing in my mind that I kind of wanted to think more about it. I mean, I of course always want to reference an expert when I do something new, especially if I intend to draft the pattern. And I decided already on what the stitch pattern is, which I will keep a surprise at least until it is executed. But I do want to knit with yarn from my stash, which I will show you now. I do want to knit a top-down drop sleeve t-shirt design, and I've wanted a drop sleeve t-shirt ever since I stumbled across and eventually purchased Andrea Mowry's Velocore shirt pattern, and it's something I've swatched for. I've thought a lot about it. I've hesitated to make it, mostly because, well, I wasn't sure about the yarns to choose, but The major reason I haven't knit it yet is that it's worked from the bottom up. And I don't know, because I'm not using the exact same yarn she chose, and I know it's a light fingering, which is I think the best gauge of yarn for the application of that design. I don't know that I have enough yardage, because the yardage per skein or per 100 grams is far greater than a lot of the yarns that I have in my stash that I want to work from. So the hesitation there with that project is I don't know that I have what it takes to make it. And like I just mentioned, I would rather work when gauge or not gauge, but yardage is in question. I would rather work from the top down. I'd rather work from the top down in general. And so I want to execute a drop sleeve t-shirt from the top down. And I also want to work for my stash. So I have pulled these out before. I've shown them to you since I dyed them. I actually over dyed these skeins of spin cycle yarn with a bath of black walnut. So these are not commercially available, boo-hoo, but I'm going to knit with them, and I'm going to publish a pattern using another yarn from my stash. This is from Catskill Merino. If you don't know, they are a flock of sheep in upstate New York that is a very particular breed of merino wool called Saxon Merino. So they're like a little bit different. The fiber quality is like much finer. I do find this yarn to be a very flat, ultra squishy yarn. This yarn is like a microfiber towel. It picks up everything. It picks up every piece of dust, hair, lint, skin cells. It picks up everything. So I was originally knitting this to be a very close fitting tank top. I was actually executing a design similar to my opulent plunge bra. So that was that. But I decided this yarn is not the right yarn for that. I might still do this in the future. I'm sure I wrote down whatever I started, and I might pick that up with a different yarn. I was gonna, of course, do the cable split, which is like, I think the only way to split for cups, because you won't get that pulling on that center stitch if you just twist 2x2. I'm going to rip this out, probably give it a little bit of a lint roll, and then I'm going to work this 100 grams of black, worked with a contrasting color or two. I think these just look good together. It's kind of autumnal, it's kind of Halloween-y, it's right up my alley. My goal today is to cake these yarns, knit a swatch, and cast this on. The sooner I cast it on, the sooner it'll be written. And I'm thinking I might, because I would love just like a boat neck, drop shoulder t-shirt. I would like that one day. But what I think I'm gonna do with this is I'm going to knit a V-neck with a collar. Not dissimilar to Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero t-shirt. So I've pulled from my stash a skein and a half, 25 grams plus, of Jamieson & Smith's FC38 mix. And I think it's a really beautiful complementary color to these two. I hope this is enough. I just don't want to buy more yarn to do it. So I'm just gonna assume it is. And then if it doesn't work out in the end, I'll just rip it out. Maybe I'll find a different yarn to do it instead, but that's my plan. I'm excited for that. But I think I want to begin this project first because I love to cook up new ideas and designs in real time. Of course, I want to knit something just for myself, but I think this is going to be a really good background project for the end of the day when I don't want to think, when I don't want to write, when I don't want to labor over sharing. You know, this is like for me, for my eyes only.
Therefore, British eyes only.
Don't I look kind of British?
What I've been working on the most this week is hashtag make my house smell good again 2023. I've been washing wool. This is 466 grams of Cordell fiber. I still have one more batch it's soaking in a cool bath of water. I'm going to cook that on the stove today and get that last batch scoured. So I'm guessing I'll have a minimum 550 maybe grams of fiber before combing, which is where I kind of get the most loss of fiber. So if I had to guess, maybe I'll have about 400 grams of finished yarn from this fleece, and it is quite lovely. So I think I have the fleece info here. This is a Cordell Natural Color medium grade fiber grown by Linda Reichert over in Wooster, Ohio. The sheep doesn't have a name except 163. So I'm guessing they have a bigger flock. It was coated and I paid $28 per pound, and this fleece was originally 4.5 pounds. I split this fleece, so I took home about 2.25 pounds, and this is what I have left. So it's all clean. I always scour with the Mrs. Meyer's dish soap. It just doesn't suds up far too much like Dawn. It's much easier to rinse out than other dish soaps like Dawn, and it really does get the fiber super clean. So when it's wet, it has a much longer staple. When it's dry and all crunched up, it looks to be rather short, but there's so much crimp to this, it really does kind of open up and stretch to be, I would say, like 3.5 inches, maybe. No, I wouldn't say it's close to 4. Very easy staple to spin, although longer in my mind is always better. Let me see, I'll insert a little B-roll of footage for you to see this fiber up close so that you can get a good look at it. But it is natural. There's a lot of variation, a lot of bright heather gray, and then some darker little streaks of black. I do hope to blend this as much as possible. I think that when I start to prepare this fiber, I'm going to pull everything out of the bag, and I'm going to take a little bit of all the different hues with each batch of fiber on my hand comb. So my goal is to kind of evenly incorporate all the different colors with each little amount that I'm combing out at a time, and then blend them on my hackle so that hopefully each skein is rather close to the same shade. In my last spinning of hand spun natural color, I didn't really manage the color all that well, and I had some skeins that were significantly lighter than others, and I kind of want to just avoid that this time. I want to try to blend it as much as possible. Blend, blend, blend. Blending is the secret.
Then you blend and blend and blend. Blending is the secret.
I probably won't spin this fiber until maybe the fall. But I want to start knitting more. I want to wrap up my scouring, and then I want to continue spinning the Jacob fleece I showed you all last week. I have more white fiber to spin.
And then once that's done, I will start blending the gray and white and spin that. And then once that's done, I'm going to comb and spin the brown fiber from the same fleece. And then hopefully I will have enough to knit a gorgeous colorwork moment.
So that's my spinning plans, my knitting plans right here, and of course this thing whenever that happens. Now, in addition to all of that, in last week's live chat premiere, I was turned on to a new to me designer who I hadn't ever looked into before, and I was perusing her patterns. I added a bunch of them to my favorites. I might have queued one or more up, and I already picked out yarn for one of them. The one that I have picked out yarn for, in fact, let me just tell you, the name of this designer is Natasha Hornby. I think it's so interesting the way that she actually knit one garment with 2 different sleeve options to show you. So you can see in the top image, there's that drop sleeves sort of looking t-shirt. And then in the second, you can see it's a 3/4 length sleeve. I don't know which one I'll do. I'm leaning towards the 3/4 length sleeve, but who knows? She used fingering weight yarn for this, and I just think that the front and the back look so neat, the way it appears to be stitched together like that. And there's a very interesting pattern of stitches at the bottom, like a textured pattern, and that color work center. I just think it's so cute. And it's a dolman sleeve, so I'm gonna get a little dolman action. I think it's knit. I haven't purchased the pattern yet, so I don't know for sure, but I think it's knit with the square, and then I think you pick up and knit off that, the sides of the sweater. So I pulled out some yarn from my stash. I'm gonna run and grab it so I can show it to you. Fingering weight yarn. The main color requires, let me just make sure. I think I'm gonna do the second size. Size small measures 33 inches, designed with no ease. So that's close to my bust size. So I'm gonna knit the small. If it's a little big, great, love that. I'm gonna knit the small. So my main color, I need about 825 yards, and I have 3 skeins of Brooklyn Tweed's Loft yarn. This is a woolen spun fingering weight yarn, and 275 yards times 3, is that enough? Okay, so I have 825 yards, and for the small, I need 985. For the 3/4 length sleeve. For the cap sleeve, I need 825 yards. So it looks like I'm knitting the cap sleeve. For the contrast color, I need only 155 yards, which I'm gonna assume this has. This special skein of yarn was given to me by Ellie, who lives over in Oregon, and I just dropped the little piece of cardstock that was tucked inside of here. But this is a skein that was grown by a very conscious shepherd or shepherdess that loves their flock, and they just adore their sheeps. And so it's a very special little skein I've been holding on to. It has a sister skein in my stash that's a darker gray, but I thought this made a really nice contrast. And because it's a lightweight, summerish garment, but it's also wool, I wanted to choose here's the design again, so you can see the construction. Part of it is color work, part of it is not. I think it's mosaic knitting. I could be wrong. This is very light and fluffy and airy. Woolen spun yarn is actually quite insulating, so I don't know, I've never knit a summer garment out of a woolen spun yarn before, but it's also light, so I don't know what to think. But I feel like because this is more of a worsted, well, it's certainly woolen prepped, but it has this tight spin to it, and it's a little bit lighter weight. It holds a lot less air, is what I should say. I think that these will actually, even though they're very different feeling, these I think will probably knit up really nice together, because the lighter weight contrast color isn't going to add a whole lot of bulk to the finished fabric. And these colors are very similar to the colors chosen for the original design, which is the one I think I like the most. I always look through the project pages on Ravelry, and I love to see what color combinations people come up with. A lot of the times they're super inspiring, but I kept coming back to the high contrast, very neutral execution of this pattern, and I think I loved that one the most. So this is something I want to make, and it's such little yardage. I feel like I could knit this in a week or 2. if I worked diligently on it. So I don't know, maybe I need to just pick something and start. But that's a pattern I would love, love, love to knit ASAP, because I think I could like actually wear it this season if I just got into gear. But other than that one pattern of hers, she has so many others. This one here called Joni is a gorgeous little t-shirt. I don't think you can see it, but there's this lace design, and it's the same concept with that square thing happening. I don't think it's knit the same way. I think it might be worked from the top down. And she uses all of the tags, which I love. I love when designers implement that tool because you can see at a glance, like, how is this constructed? It's an adult size boat neck, cap sleeve, charted crew neck with eyelets, fitted in the round lace, no ease, one piece, positive ease, so you can wear it either or, with a schematic, seamless short rows, short sleeve, textured top down written pattern. I love the tags on Ravelry. And I don't think I'm actually going to knit this. It is a sport weight yarn. I think it's a linen blend. I just don't have any plant-based fibers in my stash. And I think a plant-based fiber would be a really nice execution of that open work lace design. And then there's one other I've added to my favorites that I don't know that I'm ever going to actually knit, but I would consider. It's the Fen. Is it a pullover or a cardigan? I forget. It's a pullover. This is the back side, so you can really see the shoulder construction there. It's a saddle sleeve shoulder with a textured front and back, color work around the bottom half, and it looks like the sleeves are stockinette, which I would prefer. It's kind of neat to have a very textured sweater with simple to work sleeves, and I think that that color work band can be really flattering, but also, I don't know, I hesitate. Here's another completely different color story. Love that, very pretty. And you can see a lot of people have worked this in a lot of different colors. So it's so generous of people to take the time to update Ravelry when they make stuff. I've gotten out of the habit. I was the most active updating my projects on Ravelry when I was working a job where I had the time to just log in on the clock and like update all of the details to what I was knitting. What I currently do requires my hand on my mouse clicking all day long. So I don't have time to fuss around on Ravelry all that much, except for when I'm home on the weekends, and I've gotten a little lazy updating my project pages, I've noticed. But love that pattern. Wanted to give a huge shout out to this designer. Again, it's Natasha, that's how you spell it, Hornby. So pretty. And then while I was perusing Ravelry, I came across another designer, and she has so many good patterns. Again, I don't know that I'm ever going to get around to knitting many of them, but this one is so cute, and it's very reminiscent of the Taylor Swift Antihero shirt. It's by it's by Irene Lynn. It's the Liana sweater. The gauge is clearly different. It's a raglan construction, but I loved the zigzags. I thought that was so cute. And the collar is a very different shape, even though, you know, it is the collar, it's just a different shaped collar. But I stumbled across this pattern and I loved it. I thought it was so cute. You see that? I love the styling of that. So like retro. But she has a lot of very interesting patterns. She's got a lot of very dramatic sleeves. I don't ever see myself knitting a mutton sleeve, if that's what this is called. It's just a lot of fabric, and there's this pretty like balloon sleeve here. I love her patterns. This isn't a cardigan, a lace cardigan. I love the way she has styled it. I don't think I'm ever gonna knit an all over lace cardigan, but I'd like to think about it. This one's DK weight, fingering held double. This is another balloon sleeve design of hers. It seems very cropped, which I like a cropped garment, but it has some textured stitch. I don't think you can see it. Let me pull that up a little closer. Very cute. Love that. Oh, I've seen this pattern a few times before, but I think if I'm ever gonna knit another yoke colorwork sweater, I would very much love to knit this one by Natella Ostakova. It's called Ocean, and it looks like it incorporates knits and purls. So it is very interesting, very cool. I feel like I could certainly knit through a bunch of my stash yarn if I were to ever knit this. And I just really liked it. I really liked that pattern. And that is it for this week's episode of the Thread to Mend podcast. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry and Instagram. You can find me over on TikTok as Taylor Knits. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and that you all take care.